Hey guys, hope you're having a good start to your spring. I am diving into this Southbend lathe that I picked up, and the Achilles heel of it is that it didn't have reverse. And so I tried so many combinations to get the original motor, or original to me anyway, motor to work in reverse, and many a blown breaker later it just would not work. So we resorted to eBay and we picked up this lovely half horse ball door, brand new, for a steal of a price. And I know a lot of people have problems just wiring these switches in. So here is the ball door. I only have it at 110. It can also be at 220. But you're going to be wanting to look for that interchange 5 and 8 leads to reverse rotation. That's what you want. So I have this wired up to my switch hastily because I just want to know if it'll actually work, and it does. So the next step is actually mounting it to the plate behind the lathe, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to machine a aluminum plate, bolt it to this, and then line up the motor with the pulley and then do my holes. Now the pulley that this came with, I'm not sure it's original to the Southbend, and there's no keyway, so you're definitely going to want a keyway. So I have an original Southbend pulley coming, and that will fit nicely on this 5/8 shaft here. Once I have that pulley, then we can line up our belts here and have it properly powered. Now I went from a 3/4 horse to a half horse. I think it was like 1750 RPMs. Now I'm only 1425. But for what this machine is going to do, that is plenty of RPMs for this thing. And this ball door is pretty torquey, but I think it'll be just fine for what I'm doing. I was tempted to get a 3-phase motor because you can also put a VFD on there and control the RPMs pretty smoothly, but for this thing I only want it to go into 110. I don't want to have to run my phase converter for it if I just want to put around in the garage and make something. So I went with the new ball door here, and ball door has been around for a long time, made in USA, so I'm sure it's made of foreign and domestic materials, but try to make it USA as much as I can without busting the budget here, thanks to eBay. So I will plug this guy in. They sure make them a torquey SOB here. And I gotta let it come to almost a complete stop before I reverse it. But it works. Now if I don't wait long enough for it to spin down, it'll actually just keep going in the direction. So don't do that. I think that's all I got for you guys. I know a lot of people kind of struggle with this. I am just using plain old trailer wiring that I got off of Amazon. I think it's just 5. Yeah, it's 5 wire. I wouldn't mind it being a little bit nicer on the insulation because it's just kind of paper, but you know, it'll work. It'll work just fine. So that is what I've been currently working on. I have not worked on the blue machine yet. It is definitely on the to-do list. The white machine here, I bought all new lube line for it, and I need to go through this Shawa oiler because, as you can tell, I don't know if you can tell too much, the one on the right is lower than the one on the left. And when you pull up on this plunger, it's supposed to push oil all the way through the system. Well, that plunger only goes about halfway before it stops. And you need that to pump as much whey oil number 2 into that machine. So we're going to have to replumb all the lines and just give it a once over. I do have a spare one of these if it comes down to it, but I'm hoping it's just something simple. And you definitely want to double check all of your lubrication lines on your old CNCs here. Other than that, there isn't anything for this currently. I'm just kind of focusing on getting the manual lathe running for second operation stuff, and then we'll dive into this a little bit here. And then the problem child here, I will work on it a little bit more this weekend. I got 4 days off, so we got a little bit of time to throw at it. So thank you all for watching, and I'll keep you guys updated a little bit better than I normally do. Alright, this is the motherboard out of the blue machine. This is the original board, and we have painstakingly extracted this chip here and redid the connectors, or the eyelets, for the board. And the eyelets are these very, very tiny, very tiny. I think I used these ones here. And just to get you to how tiny they are, oh, clean all the solder off there. There it is. So you extract the solder and all the crap from the hole, and then you have to insert that eyelet into it and then kind of use it as a rivet and then smush it from either side. And then you restore the connections. So I ended up buying another whole board, which was about 500 bucks, to use as a template to make sure I got all the connectors in the right spot, because you can't just go and Google a layout for a Fanuc board. So the $500 spare board is full of spare parts, basically, is what I bought it for. I've tried to get it to work, trying to do like an exact hookup, but it's not entirely the same board in certain areas, so it would take a good amount of time to make that board usable and money. So in checking all the connections for my chip here, it appears to be all hooked up correctly according to that other board. So now all I should be Oh, now what I should do is I should be able to install this board into the machine and re-input the parameters into the board, and then it should work, is what we're all crossing our fingers for. Now, I've checked over all the chips to make sure they look functional and checked them out with my multimeter here. So in theory, everything on this board is good, but you won't know until you hook it up. And if this doesn't work, I'm pretty sure the relay board has some issues as well. So we'll have to dive into that in case I get another alarm. I forgot which alarm it was, but it was like a servo error alarm, but I didn't get that when this board was in there to begin with. I only got it after I unsoldered some connections from that relay board. So we're gonna have to try that, I guess. But I got you guys up in the stand here. Let's see if I can zoom you in. So right there is where I repaired. And although tracing isn't great, it's not awful, but it does help if you have a entire spare board over there to help you. If I didn't have that board, I probably wouldn't be able to do this. So I guess I'll bring you guys back once I got it installed and we'll boot it on together. Alright, everything is hooked up. I got the battery backup here, so there is some power to the board right now. The only thing I'll be suspicious of is the back of this relay board that had all of those wires on the back of it. And I did label where they went, and I did see that some of the board traces were damaged, and that's why they had some of those red wires crisscrossing across it. So if I get that servo error, that means I need to go and redo the connections on those red wires, because it did not give me that error before I worked on it without removing those wires. So in that case, if I do get it, then the question is, do I MacGyver this board back together to make it work, or do I make that board, I have to transplant everything on this board to that board, and then we cross our fingers, I guess, because that board is in better shape, but all of the relays are missing off of it, and so we would have to transplant this entire board into that board. So I guess we will see what happens when I flick the switch, I suppose. So it booted up, and it did give me a servo error 101. So I'm going to stitch back together the abomination of red here, and you can tell that this main here going to this servo is not working. So they crossed everything over to get power, and I labeled it before we took it all apart, so now we're going to put it all back together again. The counter dial kept going up, and I suspect that I missed some flux on the board, so I hosed off the board with some electronics cleaner, And we're going to let that dry while we solder the red wires back onto the board here, and then we are going to hope that it just works. And my hopes are not up very much for this thing to work, because it has just fought us the entire way since we have hauled it home. So we're going to try anyway. So I will bring you back once I get everything soldered back to where it was. Alright, after all of our work, it is acting just like when that chip died in it. And, well, just take a look for yourself. So I got the power on, and I'm going to turn the main switch on. You're going to watch that chip right there, but watch it in the dark. Yeah, you see that? You see that little flash? Okay, turn it off and turn it on again. Yeah, yeah, there it is. So, I don't know if that chip is bad, if it has an internal short, or what. But it will not allow the hydraulics to fire, or the internal case fan, when it's doing that. Yeah, right in between there. You son bitch. God, it kind of looks like there's some frickin' solder in between that. What if we just take a scraper? What if we just do something like that? Huh? I don't see Puff the Magic Dragon. If that was it, I'm going to be so annoyed. Really? Alright, let's boot up the main. Nope. That is not our problem. Everything says it's ready, but no hydraulics kicked on. And then, yep, it's still acting like that chip's bad. So you can hear the servo clicking back there, but it will not turn that alarm off unless I'm unclamped. So that means that chip is still bad. I don't see anything smoking on her, but I'm wondering if that was enough to fry it, because oh no, it's still doing it. Yep, still doing it. All right, well, for the third or fourth time, I will be extracting that chip again from this poor board. I'm getting really good at this board stuff,
but I would definitely not send me your stuff, because obviously I am still way too new at doing this. And now the question is, if that's the chip that's doing that, or is that because I put this back together again? I'm gonna say it's the chip, because I got it pretty darn hot when I was putting it in. So some days you just can't win, guys. The one win I will go for is that I was able to input the parameters into this machine, and that is only because a maintenance guy wrote down on the back of some very old parameters that you have to jump the wiring in the emergency stop switch in order to input parameters. And that is so annoying, because the Fanuc book does not tell you to do that. It says you're an MDI and or emergency stop, but emergency stop on these shuts them down. So you have to jump the emergency stop and click it in order to upload parameters into this machine. So, fun fact for all you Fanuc guys out there running 3Ts. You have to undo your cabinet here, and then I made a little jumper here, and you have to jump 31 and what was it, like 32. You have to jump these two here on this side like that, and then when you turn it on and you input your parameters, you click in the e-stop and then you turn on. So that's fun. You learn something every day here, don't you, gents? It would appear that I have another date hunched over on the table, clipping that chip off. Now, we're just gonna have to see where we go from here, I guess. So, let's see what happens when I bring you guys back. Alright, so this is the old one that was laying down on top of the box, and I have transferred all of the usable items from the one that it was running to this one, and I did have to fix a little bit of a trace there, but this one does not have this malarkey attached to the back of it. So I guess we're gonna roll the dice and see. Once I get this one in place, I'm waiting on some really tiny drill bits for the motherboard so I can drill through the solder and put a new chip on there, and we're gonna cross our fingers and eyeballs, and hopefully something actually happens and the hydraulics kick on, I guess. That is the current gamble we are gambling with. We'll bring you guys back when it either does something or doesn't do something. Alright, well, it did stuff. Hydraulics fired. All the parameters are now input back into it. Everything functions except the spindle and the indexing. So the spindle does not kick on when I call it up, and the indexer does not index. So something else is askew. But now it closes and clamps. It does throw an alarm, but that's because I think it's misadjusted, and when you go to clear it, it goes away. Before, it would not let you clear it until you reclamped it. So I would call this a major win in the old gal. However, the spindle not kicking on is kind of a, you know, it's a lathe. It kind of needs to have that. So I'm thinking it might be something to do with the inverter. This one is a newer style inverter than the white one. When I did clean back there by the motor, maybe I bumped something, or so I'm going to check into that tomorrow. However, it finally works to a point. So now you pop the e-stop and it boots. It does its initiation in the back, bam, and it fires, and it says it's ready for once. However, ready is, you know, a state of mind, I guess. The power inverter for this thing is a little dark, but this one's a Mitsubishi, and then it has a dinosaur of a indexer below it. I did find an original one with all the guts to it for $600 on eBay, but I don't know if it's our inverter there, because it did work. It just didn't sound great, and then the light saying it is active isn't turning on, so I'm not sure guys, but it is nice for it to finally boot up and not do a bunch of randomness. So we got that, I guess. We got a partially working machine. Finally, we have a partially working machine. I'm going to dive into a few more maintenance manuals and see what I can come up with before tomorrow. But our boards worked. All of our soldering job worked, so that makes me happy. We replaced all of the relay board, and we repaired the motherboard, and it did not do any magic smoke, thankfully. It kind of acts like something for the spindle. You tell it to come on, you hear the click, and then the motor just doesn't do anything. So I feel like it's simple, but with this thing, I just don't know anymore. So thank you all for watching. Yeah, thanks for watching my ramblings.